We did have to work jointly with the district attorney's office over the next one, which was the subpoena that was issued to the sheriff's office for a bunch of FOA information. And we still have some follow-up to do with that because the district attorney has requested a letter from our attorney, Ted Small, describing why we can't produce some items to the judge. So that was a little bit of a discussion, and we're still working on that. Yeah. If you have any other questions, I'm glad to answer them. I'm sorry that the list didn't get submitted. I was out a couple of days last week at the end of the week, and
I just want, so I think we might have time to segue from this into the FOA discussion that I wanted to have. So could you just help me understand better number 11 and just because I want to understand what went on there and
yeah, so
framework around FOA, I guess,
yeah.
For this.
So like 2 days before, we were served with a subpoena to be in court over documents that were requested through FOA. The district attorneys was made aware there was a change in district attorneys. So one of the district attorneys that was handling the case originally had retired, and the the temporary assigned, which is Josh Klein Golden. He had come in from Lewiston to handle this particular case to go over to court. There had been items that were requested via FOA that were really, really broad and was very ambiguous. Wanted, all recorded radio traffic for multiple months. I figured it out. I think that the time to review it would have taken us 3,742 hours in order to review the documents that were requested. So we asked for, a smaller scope. That was refuted. So it went back and forth, but it became part of the criminal case, and that the criminal attorney, so the state's attorney met with them. The judge ordered them to provide certain documents and certain things. So that attorney came in, briefed me in my office, and I've had to ask. He basically came in, and the judge basically through him asked that our attorney respond to them either with production of the documents or else to a reason why the documents couldn't be provided in writing. And that was kind of, the judges back to us in regards to it. So I'm privy to some of it. I'm not privy to all of the criminal case, obviously, but I am have been tracking the FOA, and it has been a large FOA request that we have been trying to comply with. However, the records that they're looking for is radio traffic between certain dates, and it's like 8 months. So we only keep data that is communicated between the dispatcher on Prime, the Prime official channel of the Regional Communication Center, from there to the deputy. And this is looking for some information that the deputy had with another deputy, possibly on another channel. But again, in order to comply with that, we would have to listen to 24/7, 8 months worth of tape in order to comply. And I basically sent that to our attorney, Ted, and to Klein Golden to explain that to him, that the request was so broad that these were some things that we have to do. So it is still in the process, and I've been trying to facilitate the conversation between Ted Small and the district attorney's office, and I'm not sure that contact has been made yet. I know that Ted has reached out to me saying that he's been trying to get a hold of him. I know that the district attorney has a very busy schedule, but we're trying to make sure that is nailed down before.
In something like this, are we still able to charge for the documents? I mean, FOA law is FOA law, no matter who's requesting it. But it's weird to have
this particular
a judge come in on this and say, produce documents through FOA.
Again, sometimes FOA and the criminal, because once we're under the subpoena, but we were only given the subpoena 2 days to comply with the subpoena, but the subpoena referred to the documents that were requested by FOA and did that. And again, I'm not privy to all of it, but it is a criminal case where we tend to have to provide more documents than if it is just standard FOA.
Right, but now it seems like it's not really falling under FOA, it's falling under a subpoena for documents, so it's a completely sidestepped that, the other process.
Yes and no, except the attorney that, right. I guess I would say you are correct in a lot of points. The only attorney, though, that can answer this is the attorney that was working on the FOA stuff.
Quick technical question. You're asking for stuff that was on a car-to-car channel?
Possibly.
Does dispatch even hear that, let alone record it?
No,
I didn't think so.
They may have heard it where it was Prime not covered, but if there was any traffic on Prime at the time, they wouldn't have heard it. They don't.
Car channel, yeah.
Yes, it's a car-to-car channel, and they typically don't monitor that, and they certainly don't record it. We're not recording that channel.
Right.
So those are some of the things that we're trying to iron out with it. But the language that is used is very ambiguous. So it's part of the process of trying to nail this down. And this is one of 2 big FOAs that we've been facing through that law firm.
Meaning this one criminal suit with this law firm.
The one particular person that's requesting a FOA, and there's two people right now that are requesting, through attorneys, are requesting large amounts of information. So there's 2 major things that we're working on with the FOA attorney. And again, they come from one individual who also has an attorney and another attorney that's requesting a lot of FOA information.
And so so number 18 is the same FOA concern.
Well, I'm dealing with 2 different FOAs. So the Zoom meeting with the attorney on FOA was the other.
The other one.
Was the other one. Yeah, and we had 2 or 3 page document of things that we needed to fulfill. And our previous attorney Trevor Bryce had fulfilled a bunch of those, and we had got him a lot of documentation in that. So the new attorney had a punch list of things that we needed to go down through and get. A couple of them were from the sheriff's office, so I had emailed Chief Burkhardt, and he was working on that, and we had fulfilled the rest of the punch list. But I wanted to have the Zoom meeting with her because it was too complicated to talk about otherwise. You couldn't go in there, and you could keep going with emails for 2 years, or you could just have a 15-minute conversation about it. And that's about how long it took us, was 15 minutes to get those ironed out. And then we had some follow-up emails to that.
Is our attorney sympathetic to the overbroad concept of the FOA request, and we're willing to?
Actually, yes, on both occasions. And there has been a large discussion email chain going back and forth in reference to the second one, because we did provide a huge lump sum of new FOA stuff to them. But they also are continuing to request more. So that is continuing to go back and forth. Our attorney is certainly on board with the overbroad from the original that we were talking about, because of the, again, I broke it down to the number of hours that we would have to spend to do that, and it was well higher than $2,700.
$20 an hour.
Well, I mean, that was kind of going to my question of whether or not we're still allowed. So once it becomes subpoena for records, I don't think we're allowed to, under FOA, we're allowed to charge. But once we get subpoena for records, we can't charge them.
Yes. So that particular individual, though, has filed numerous documents with our attorneys and through FOA that he's indigent and cannot afford to pay for these documents, but that they are crucial for his defense. So I think that that's how it has also come at us from two different angles: the FOA first, and then the appearance again in court.
So I wasn't aware that there was a clause in the law for being indigent. So there is, like, you can just say, I can't afford it. And you.
Yeah, there is some sort of clause in there. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but I can certainly provide that for you. But yeah, there is a thing in that clause that says that if you can't pay, but it's something for you, then you can file this. And he has filed that paperwork multiple times for multiple years with us.
One of those requests took the chief 34 hours to complete.
For the person that has multiple requests over the years, that's always indigent.
Just our,
Yes.
just one request took him 34 hours a few weeks ago.
What we've been doing, because this has basically been weaponized, the FOIA system, is they've been putting a sticky note onto the envelopes and the materials that come over here, how many man hours and what's cost us, zip drives and things like that. Where it goes or who gets charged, I don't know, but I've gotten everything from, I'm creating a YouTube thing, I need any and all, I'll shoot it. We've got this resident here who will never ever be happy, but that one was the big one because he keeps doing repeat things, asking for the same thing, so.
And it does go back and forth again. I think some of it his attorney is aware of, and certainly the court is aware of some of it. And again, this just got us in front of the judge, and again, the judge is feeding back to us through the district attorney was that we needed to produce the items, come to court, and or write a letter that explains why it's overbroad, why it can't be done. So again, I'm trying to facilitate that connection between those two so that I can get briefed by either or both of them as to what our next step is to do this.
So one of the, no, you're good. I can swing my head. I just don't know if I want to get into the full conversation and then have to stop because we have a hard stop at 9:30, and I do want to kind of dive into FOA a bit. But I say we just do it. So, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to have a discussion about today was, doing something else for our FOA requests. And aside from this is an anomaly for sure, that a judge is getting involved and saying, hey, we need these documents and producing them, whatever. In general, and I have, been now copied for a while on what just comes through the email to the FOA line, because I wanted to kind of keep track of what we were doing. And what I would like to see us do is change our process on answering FOA. I mean, we're not obligated by law to hire someone special to answer FOA requests. We've been doing that, and we've been doing it at a very costly per hour basis. I think it's $170 to $350, depending on who, picks up what piece of the process. I've talked to a number of different commissioners saying, hey, what's going on with your FOA? How, what are your bills like? And to a person, they will tell us that one of the biggest problems of our costs is the fact that we're going with a large firm and that we're paying attorneys to do all this work for us. And so I've chatted about it before. I would like to pull the plug on this process and just say we're going to find a local attorney that we can work with for the things that require an attorney, and then try to do something different for the things that don't. I mean, a lot of what we're getting for requests is data dumps, like what have the purchases been, and who are all your vendors, and that type of information is what we're being requested of, and we're sending this all to attorneys to handle for us at a pretty significant cost. And I have 2025 numbers, $37,442 for just for attorney, and that's not including whatever staff time we have here doing the work behind the scenes. That's just what we're paying the attorney. And that's 2025, and we're on track probably to be higher than that for 26, but I didn't, since Lindsay's out, I didn't get that. So, I mean, some of the stuff, like just their sort of cookie cutter, here's an email saying that we received your request. I mean, I think we're paying $80 for that email to go out, but we received the request.
I can do it for you for cheaper.
I mean, we all could, right? Like just we received the request, and you know, we have to do that. We have to acknowledge that. But we're paying through the nose for something the law doesn't require us to do. There are no penalties to us for having a backlog. I can't find another county that seems to be handling it the way we're handling it. And when we went to go to the legislature, and when I had a bill put in with Representative Henderson to try to change just the fees we can charge, because I still think we need to do that. If somebody's creating a YouTube channel, you know, and wants our video, well, they're going to make money off that. They should be charged. And, you know, a lot of what we're getting requests for is the amount of, you know, again, it's just looking for services. How can they create sales from the county's business? So I still think we need to change the law in that regard. But the reason most other counties are not feeling it the way we're feeling it is because their process is different. So I'd like for us to stop using a large firm and maybe take some more of this in-house, have a conversation about what that looks like. I understand that it's more of a delay.
And that's one of the reasons why we kind of are delayed right now, is that Trevor Bryce was handling our FOAA, and now we have he's left the firm, and now we have another one that has come in. Again, you're right, not all of these things are necessarily, I see the wisdom of not necessarily needing a lawyer's stamp on, you know, an acknowledgement letter. However, there are several incidents of people that I confer with lawyer over, because I want to make sure we're providing the proper documentation so that we don't face any kind of lawsuit over it. And I know that the only way to do that is to bring us to court, but it is expensive to go to court. But I do agree that sending those response letters at $80 a whack is very expensive.
A lot of the requests that we get at the sheriff's office are defendants or citizens, and the chief can usually process those, or even our office staff, the administrative assistants, and we know what to redact. So a lot of those routine ones, they really don't need to go to an attorney. They can be done pretty simply, and they can go out. I have noticed, and maybe it's something to talk to our IT about, there are some different programs that you can purchase to help manage FOAA requests and do automated responses when they receive something. And that might be something to look at. I have no idea other than I see these different, I get email solicitations on them, but it might be worth looking at. But I do know that, you know, when we get a request for a lot of times it's neighbor disputes. They'll send it, they'll want to know what the other person said. The chief can redact dates of birth and addresses and juvenile names, whatever it is. But there's no need for him to really send that to an attorney, and then the process goes on. Sometimes he's done with them fairly quickly.
And
So we almost need a happy medium on some of these, but some of these other requests, like, you know, how many times has the name Bigfoot been in a report? That was one of our FOIA requests. Or what, like you said, one of our vendors, you know, what are we, you know, and it's just these companies soliciting, and it just grinds down the system. Or we have defendants asking for it through FOA plus through discovery.
Right, and that is problematic as well because, it's two processes and yeah, so I mean, those types of things, probably can wait, right? Like they'd be like, well, this is already in process. The document is in process of being created. And once it is, then, you can redact whatever needs to be redacted, but to create it through two channels at the same time, it's just a waste of human resources. And then, we aren't getting to the citizen concerns that really is the purpose of FOA. So, I mean, I guess I think there are times that we have to have an attorney. Obviously, there are times that, something is being asked that is maybe very sensitive and we need to make sure that the proper things are redacted. And that seems like above what maybe someone can handle in-house. But at this moment, we're literally sending everything pipeline right to an attorney. It's just a pipeline straight to the attorney. So I would like to see us do that differently. And I would like to just make a decision that we're doing it differently because I think a little bit when you create a moment in time where you've just come to a decision and you just rip the Band-Aid off and say we're doing it and we're not quite exactly sure how that moving forward process looks, just forces, necessity is the mother of invention, I guess. We just find a new process. I don't think we have to recreate the wheel. I think there's a lot of people out there just, obviously doing this, but no other county seems to be having the cost issue that we are. So it's our process.
I agree where you're coming from. There's a lot of things we probably could handle in-house, especially just the acknowledgement that we received it. And I think the different department heads who receive it can probably.
Well, if they're going to then send it to the attorney, I see why the attorney has to have they have to be the one that says, oh, yes, I did get this, right?
Right. That I agree with. I guess what I was trying to get at is the initial sorting process at our level. As far as who needs to go to, how that looks, I don't know. But we have in-house. And then what needs to go to the attorney goes and what doesn't ourselves. I think that's what you're saying, right? Yeah, I agree.
So I would chime in a little bit on that is that informally, we do a little bit of that. I get all of I'm also copied in the FOA requests. And like when a FOA request comes in that says, like we get them on a regular basis that ask us for like building permits and, things that we've done as far as code enforcement and stuff like that. So I immediately answer those and say, we are not the repository of those records. And I direct them to the municipalities and or, the state level where those records are maintained. But also, there are a lot of other ones that are, sometimes they're really simple. And I try to head those off when I see those. I CC Trevor that I'm answering it, or I CC FOA back that I'm answering it so that they're aware that it's closed out. So we do some of that already, but it does have to be very clear that I can sit there and answer it right then. If it's something that I have to go off and collect data on or something like that, very rare that I do that. If it is something that comes in though, that's like again, I probably get 2 or 3 of those a week, requesting, information about building permits, code enforcement, property taxes that are owed. I point them off into the right direction. And then usually 2 or 3 days later, I get the same request again, and I go back and highlight it and send it off. It usually takes 2 or 3 times to respond to somebody like that before they concede that they need to go someplace else. So I do some of that. Probably should do maybe more. That would be one of my concerns, though, that as we redirect this back to us, where do we redirect this back to us? If we are going to be answering these FOA requests right from our office, who do we put in charge of that? Where do we have the man hours for that? Sometimes that's a very busy job. We get, at least you're being copied on those, so we get 2 or 3 a week. Sometimes we get more than that. And some of them are very complex sometimes. Again, some of them are very, very easy. However, my resources right now in the administrative office here, we don't have a lot of spare time. So that would be something that I would be wanting to look at is who can I task with this and how can we do that? I know in the past we had hired temps to help us out with a few things. And I don't know whether we look at maybe that, of 10 hours a week or something. We just hold all of them and have some through. There would be some thoughts, and we could certainly, we have the ability to do that. Nicole does keep on file a form that we would a form response to that you just fill out and off it goes. I do wish they were charging us less than $80 for that. However, I don't know the law firm, so. But yes,
I mean, that's the other thing is that I think we should look for some local attorney and not be going through, we should look at what are the services they're providing, right? Because there's someone else that can be providing services. And we don't have to have Skeleton, Tainter, and Abbott. Maybe we can find someone local that can do some of this and have, a conversation that way. So,
and that may be something we go out to bid. Abby and I discussed this earlier in the week. We've gone out to bid for our legal services and our contracts with that. That may be something that we want to consider is coming up with, something directly surrounding what we do with FOAA and putting that out and getting a request for proposal together and putting that out for bid. That's something that.
yeah, I feel like it's just going to be an hourly rate. I don't know how, because they're so varied, and you're right. And sometimes nothing comes through for a week and then we get, several. And, so I don't know how someone would create, a one price on that. But I do think at least like doing a search for local attorneys that might be willing to take on or requests for us so that we're not paying, up to $350 an hour for someone to do this work, I think I think it's something we should move on sooner rather than later, because it's one of those things that I see us just kind of gushing money with other options that I think we should be looking at. So with that, let's move on since it's past time for the department head meeting. And so let's if you could gather information and our next meeting, come back with some options. Does that sound
Very fair.
okay? Sounds good. All right. Good morning, everyone.